Beer here back in the Fantasy Bar. 6 plays for you for week 11 on Fanduel and Draftkings, including my favorite correlation plays. Some of my favorite mid-range plays. A running back I think is in a great spot that is too cheap. And of course, my favorite play of the week. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Week 11 edition Beers Daily Fantasy Six-Pack. Good to be back here once again in the Fantasy Bar. Thank you, as always, for stopping by and hanging out and checking out the video. Now, before we get into plays for week 11 that I'm liking, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, guys. I greatly appreciate it. That's the tip jar here in the Fantasy Bar. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and go and check out scoresandodds.com/beer. The link in the description of the video. Go and hit that link for all of your sports betting needs. Tons of information, stats, trends, analytics, and premium picks from some of your favorite RotoGrinders personalities, myself included, giving you some of my favorite NFL bets. Go and check it out at scoresandodds.com/beer. And lastly, make sure you are listening to the DFS OGs podcast every single Wednesday. Head Chopper Notorious and myself breaking down the entire main slate on FanDuel. Also, make sure you head over to fanduel.com/OG and play in our single entry $7 buy-in tournament with season-long payouts. Go and check it out today. All right, let's get into the plays for week 11. Quick recap. I know you guys have been looking for those on week 10. Nothing special. Obviously, a very down game from A.J. Brown. Dak Prescott was good to us. Najee Harris ended up getting there. All in all, decent week, but we want to do better here in week 11. So let's start out at the wide receiver position with some value with Rashod Bateman of Baltimore. So this guy just continues to get better and better. We saw the return of Sammy Watkins. We saw how bad Sammy Watkins was. I think Bateman's role is only going to continue to grow here. In fact, 8 targets in each of the last 2 games. So really starting to live up to some of that hype we saw coming out of the University of Minnesota here. Now this matchup with Chicago, normally one we want to avoid, but they have not been very good to wide receivers this year. In fact, 5th most fantasy points allowed and 4th most over the last 4 weeks. I really like this game. I think this one has some sneaky shootout potential here. One of the middling totals. There's obviously bigger headline games on the slate, headline by that Kansas City-Dallas game. This is one I think we're going to get more points than Vegas expects. So if you're betting, I like the over in this game. Rashod Bateman, great value here. I love me some Hollywood Brown, no doubt. But Bateman, just too cheap right now. Take advantage on both FanDuel and Draftkings. All right, we like Bateman. That means, yes, we like his quarterback. Let's pair him up here with Lamar Jackson. Now, I know he popped up on that injury report of illness. They're saying it is not COVID, so has quite a few days to really get healthy here. And all I think this is going to do is drive him out of sight, out of mind. We're going to have guys like Josh Allen, Mahomes, Dak Prescott, tons of quarterbacks here that are going to gobble up ownership on the high end, which is going to make Lamar Jackson a pretty low-owned option this week, which I think is very intriguing. We also talked about how we think this game is going to shoot out. We also have that last game against Miami where Lamar and company were not very good. So people are going to be skittish on this offense. I think they bounce back here in a big way. We talked about Chicago's struggles with wide receivers, 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks as well over the last 4 weeks. I think Lamar Jackson gets back on track here in a good matchup with the Chicago Bears. All right, let's go to the tight end position next. Let's go to the mid-range with Mike Gesicki of the Dolphins. So this guy's going to continue to remain highly targeted in this offense. First thing, you got Tua back under center here. You got Devontae Parker and Will Fuller both remaining out this week. You're going to have some recency bias here we can take advantage of as well. People are going to see that 0 in the box score, and they're going to say, I don't want to mess with this guy. But what I see is 7 targets there. So it's only a matter of time before he gets going again. And the Jets, certainly a matchup that he can do that with. 10th most fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. Miami in a great spot here this weekend, and Mike Gesicki in a good spot to bounce back against the New York Jets. All right, to the running back position. I promised you got a mid-range with big-time upside. That's James Conner of Arizona. So good news here if you're a Cardinals fan, if you're a James Conner fan like myself this week. Sounds like Kyler Murray going to be back in that lineup, so we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, that will help the running game tremendously here with James Conner. But Conner, even without Kyler Murray, this guy has been a touchdown machine. We're talking about touchdowns in 7 of the last 8 games, 12 total touchdowns over that stretch. And we know how valuable touchdowns are over on FanDuel. So really like him over there. Don't hate him on DraftKings either. This guy can get involved in the passing game, even with the presence of Eno Benjamin. What I really like here, the matchup. Seattle been destroyed all season long by running backs. In fact, second most Fanduel or Draftkings points allowed, 9 touchdowns already allowed to the running back position. I think James Conner extends that streak, makes it 8 of 9 games, finds the end zone, has a big day here against the Seattle Seahawks defense. All right, mid-range continues at the wide receiver position. Next pick for us, Brandon Cooks of the Texans. Now, there's a lot of great high-end receivers we could have put in here, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper here and roll with Brandon Cooks. Now, this one is not for everybody. I get it. Some people have crossed Houston completely off their list, but when I see a guy getting 14 targets at just $6K, I certainly want to take advantage of that. Also, Houston, big underdogs in this game, probably throwing most of the game here. Don't throw a ton to their running backs. Don't really throw a ton to their tight ends either. So Cooks feels like a lock for double-digit targets in this game. And there isn't a better matchup out there than the Tennessee Titans if you are a wide receiver. The most reception, the most receiving yards, the most fantasy points allowed. I think Brandon Cooks has a big day here. Even if they lose, even if it's a struggle, Brandon Cooks has a big day against this Tennessee defense. All right, it's time to take a look at my favorite play for Week 11. But before we do that, we want to continue our Beast of the Week contest, free to play. A thank you to you guys for all your support, hitting that thumbs up button, and hanging out here in the fantasy bar. All you got to do, get in the comment section right below the video and guess fantasy points on DraftKings for my favorite play of the week. The closest guess is going to win themselves a free month of RotoGrinders Premium. That's right, a chance to check everything out behind the scenes, including Lineup HQ with projections, ownership projections, and the ability to create a ton of lineups in the click of a button. So let's go. Without further ado, check out my favorite play for Week 11. You know, Matt, the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. Oh, you one more running back. We're going to roll with Joe Mixon of the Bengals, this week's Beast of the Week. So I think a lot of people are going to go back to the cheap running backs this week. We certainly have a lot of options in that department. Guys like A.J. Dillon, Jeff Wilson Jr. So some of these higher-end running backs or even these mid-range running backs could go a little bit under-owned this week, and I think that's what we're going to see with Joe Mixon. So first thing, Cincinnati coming off a bye. So anytime you're a running back coming off a bye, that's a good thing. These guys take a beating. We also have a very close spread in this game. Cincinnati, just a 1-point favorite, a very high total here as well at 50. So could see a very competitive game, could see a shootout here against the Las Vegas Raiders. Recent form also been there for Mixon. 25 or more DraftKings points now in 3 of his last 4 games. We're talking about an easy 3x return, potential for more. You're hitting 4x on this number. You're really loving life here for Joe Mixon, and the matchup, that checks the box as well. Raiders, bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed to the running back position this season. Like this spot for Cincinnati, but love this spot for Joe Mixon, making him easily my favorite play on the board in this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that'll do it for Week 11 in the Fantasy Bar. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in that comment section right below the video. Don't forget, fantasy points for Joe Mixon on DraftKings for your shot at some free RotoGrinders Premium. Also, make sure you go and check out my Yahoo 6-pack with 6 more guys I am looking at for Week 11. For RotoGrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut, guys. Best of luck this week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, Fanduel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist